Greetings, fellow Transformers enthusiasts. It is I, Novelty Productions, back again with another episode of Out of the Box. So, Transformers Legacy has been, recently kicking off, and it's so far pretty much just carrying on what the War for Cybertron trilogy did. Even kind of releasing some, I guess, backlogs, would you call it, from the War for Cybertron trilogy. Also throwing in characters from Prime with the G1 redesign. And I know while some people aren't into that because they think, oh, G1 is pandering too much, I personally like it. It keeps everything consistent with its aesthetic, and the reason that people come back to Transformers is because of G1. If it weren't for G1, we wouldn't have all this. And amongst what we've got so far for Legacy, we've seen parts of, and also gotten a part of, as you'll see today, a new version of Menasor due to the flaws of the Combiner Wars one, which I do have. I have the G2 version. And although I do have a lot of fondness for it, as it was my first ever Combiner and first ever really large Transformers figure, I understand people have their issues with it. However, I take issue with the new Menasor. I don't like the whole big guy wearing armor made of cars approach for Menasor that the original cartoon had. I don't like that for a combiner. I prefer combiners to be 5 guys combined, with each of the smaller bots forming a limb, which is not what this new Menasor is doing. However, individually, the bots of Menasor range from pretty decent looking to... Now, so far, since Wave 2 is supposedly going to take until, fall at the least to come out, which, shortages and stuff, we've only got one member of the team so far from the first wave, that being Dragstrip. So let's see how he turned out, shall we? So, as he did in G1, Dragstrip transforms into this 6-wheeled race car. And according to Wikipedia, it is a Tyrrell P34, or at least an approximation thereof. And overall, I think it turned out pretty good, for the most part. As you can see, on my copy at least, the spoiler refuses to line up. I mean, you can kind of get it there, but then it looks crooked down at the bottom. I don't know if it really shows up much on camera, but it just doesn't like to line up properly. I can't exactly tell why. I tried popping off the foot and using sandpaper to sort of shave down one specific region, and it didn't help much. But I can live with that, honestly. Now, to anyone who owns the figure, you will immediately see that I have done a little bit of customization. I've colored in the pegs here, which would normally be yellow for the front wheels, because for some reason they painted the back one, but didn't paint the front ones. So I went ahead and fixed that. And just to get it out of the way, I also added these stripes here. Normally these were just left unpainted, but they are sculpted in, so I just used a Sharpie to fill those out. And I also added some down here, which will later become the knees. And speaking of which, the bottom of this car mode is surprisingly really clean. Usually I give a lot of leeway to, kibble under the car. Even visible head syndrome can kind of be justified in most cases, but here it's pretty much spotless. I mean, you can see some joints, but other than that, it's pretty good. However, that does come at the cost of one thing. The head is visible from here, and while I appreciate the effort to try to make it look like a seat, it still just kind of looks like a head or something in there. And there's also faux engine detail, but I can kind of live with that. And I can also live with the head, to be honest. It's not a deal breaker. And of course, being that he can combine, there is a button down here that if you simply press it with your fingernail, if they're long enough, or with a screwdriver, you can split the car in half. And this is how it will be used for the combine mode. As I said in the intro, I'm not a fan of this. For every combiner, I prefer for the Voyager-sized or larger figure to form the torso, with the other smaller components forming the limbs. It just makes the combiner feel more complete. It feels more like a combiner instead of just a big guy wearing cars as armor. But thankfully, usually at least, the figures can be enjoyed on their own. He does have a pretty decent looking Decepticon badge up front. mean, it looks decent when you make sure to peg them together properly, like I totally did and didn't have to fix just that. As for weapon integration, there are these two ports up here where you can plug in his guns, which we'll look into with the robot mode. And overall, I don't think it looks terrible. I understand a lot of people will think that this looks dumb, but for me, weapon integration can kind of be categorized in a few ways. Either the weapon just plugged on the top with no attempt to make it integrate, actual integrated weapon storage that allows the weapon to basically be completely concealed, or the weapon combining with the alt mode to actually serve a purpose as something like a tank turret. And I think as far as gun just plopped on top of a car, this doesn't look terrible. But for the sake of aesthetics, it's usually just better to keep these aside. Of course, being a car, the wheels do roll, and that's about all I can say as far as features. It's a six-wheeled race car. I have heard of incidents of people getting the figure and it's missing one of the wheels, so I'd say be mindful of that. Now for size comparisons. Here he is with Earthrise Bomb Shock. Here he is with Legacy Iguanus, who took me way too long to stand up. Here he is with Legacy Skids. Here he is with Kingdom or Legacy Blaster. Here he is with Kingdom or Legacy Galvatron. And here he is with Tommy Birdie the Bus. And now, Robot Mode. And here is Legacy Dragstrip in Robot Mode. And overall, he's a pretty good robot. And I'd say he replicates the look of Dragstrip from the cartoon pretty well. These bits on the shoulders can be a little bit of a pain sometimes because they don't let you move the arm all the way back without contorting everything in weird ways. But overall, that's pretty minor. Even these wheels don't look too bad, although due to the way that they fold up, I kind of wish that this square bit was a bit more aligned with his shoulder, but that's a nitpick. And the issue with my copy's spoiler also does affect robot mode, as he can't quite stand up straight on this heel, as you can see, but overall, it can be dealt with by just moving the other. And he has a pretty good head sculpt. That's one thing Legacy has been knocking it out of the park with. And that engine detail inside of his chest is also pretty good, even if it is a faux part. If I'm being honest, faux parts don't really bother me that much, at least most of the time. As for accessories, Dragstrip includes two. They are completely identical small pistols that can plug together like so. Although on mine, the connection is really tight, so it takes a lot of force. And what's kind of amusing to me is that if you bought like a couple of Dragstrips and took all of their guns, you could feasibly just combine it forever. That would be amusing to see. If somebody has multiple of this figure, please do that. Now, on the website, it says that his signature weapon is a Gravito Blaster. Now, given that he comes with two, I don't know if that's referring to these or referring to another accessory that was maybe scrapped. And strangely enough, he is the only figure from Wave 1 of Legacy, well, outside of the core class, that doesn't include an Energon-infused weapon. I mean, Galvatron doesn't either, but he was more of a carryover from Kingdom, so he doesn't quite count. So maybe he was meant to come with something else. Maybe something like the gun that his alt mode originally had in G1. Of course, as with most weapons and Transformers, he can hold them. Why do you always do this? And as for storage options, he has a surprising amount of ports on his back. 4 to be specific on the back of his torso, as well as 1 on each of his limbs. That also supports my theory that maybe he was originally supposed to come with another accessory. But as is, you can use these ports to store his weapons in any way that you want. This is my preferred configuration. As far as accessories go, these are pretty good. However, they are not blast effect compatible, which is strange considering they do have a small, I guess, nub would be the way that you could put it, on the barrel that looks like it would be able to use blast effects if it was a bit bigger. And it's not like blast effects have been scrapped either, because Kickback and Skids can both use them on their guns. But overall, I do like these guns. As for articulation, Dragstrip has a mushroom joint at the head. It is not ball jointed, so he can't really look up or side to side. However, due to the transformation joint, he could look down ever so slightly. These annoying shoulder bits are also on a ball joint, so they can go in just a little bit, and they can also swivel around, although it doesn't really do a whole lot as far as clearance. So the forward and back movement of the arms is limited, specifically in the back movement. Although, of course, the arms can go out and in as well. There is a swivel at the bicep, a bend at the elbow, and no wrist swivel. Shame. He does have a swivel at the waist, which I know a lot of people are definitely sticklers for. His legs can go forward and back, as well as out and in, with a pretty good range. In fact, it looks like if you get the arms out of the way somehow, he might be able to do more than a full split. Ouch. He does have a thigh swivel, which is good, even though on mine it's a little bit tight. His knees can go forward slightly, but they can also go backward. That's pretty good. Due to transformation, his feet can go backwards about that far, and they also have a pivot. Although, like I said, this one has the issue of not wanting to go all the way. But you adjust them correctly, and he can stand just fine. And with those joints, you can get some pretty good poses out of this guy. Now for some robot mode size comparisons. Here he is with Siege or Earthrise Smashdown. Here he is with Legacy Iguanas. Here he is with Legacy Kickback, in my preferred configuration with the wings down. Here he is with Legacy Bulkhead. Here he is with Studio Series 86 Grimlock. And here he is with Lego Overwatch Bastion. Now once again you can see my minor customization, mainly in the lower legs. These knee panels were originally not painted, and these stripes were originally not painted, but I added them because I feel like he kind of needs them. And that's one of my real only issues with this figure. He's just the same color. He's just yellow all around with a little bit of red in the black wheels. Granted, there are 2 shades of yellow, but it doesn't help a lot in my opinion. However, if you're a customizer like me, it doesn't prove to be much of an issue. Especially because due to me already having the G2 Menasor set and not being that enthusiastic about the new one, this is not my primary drag strip. So when he eventually does appear in my videos, whether that be Cybertron Shorts or my Transformers series that I'm currently working on, he will not be appearing as Dragstrip. Rather, he will be appearing as my interpretation of Sideways. So expect to see this guy with maybe some more red and also potentially some more purple. But overall, most of my issues with this figure are, relatively speaking, nitpicks. If I had to rank the Legacy figures that I have so far, it would go as follows. First place is Skids, second place is Blaster, third place is Galvatron, fourth place is Dragstrip, fifth place is Kickback, sixth place is Bulkhead, seventh place is Iguanas, and eighth place is RC. Though, if I'm being honest, none of the figures in Legacy have been bad in my opinion. In fact, they're all great, I'd say. Except for RC. She's good. It's just that each one of them kind of has a couple of minor issues for me. And I'm also really biased towards Skids. But overall, if this is the standard that we can expect for the rest of Legacy, I think we're in for a good couple of years, since we do know that Legacy is continuing into next year, and Dragstrip fits right in the middle for me. Not, the best of the line, but definitely not bad. In fact, nowhere near bad. He's quite good. So even though I'm not that big into the whole of the Menasor for Legacy, and will likely not get Motormaster just because I don't really feel the need to, I prefer the Combiner Wars one, honestly. The individual components are shaping up to be pretty decent. So, you can bet that I'll at least invest in some of the deluxes. I'm interested to see how Breakdown and Dead End turn out. Wild Rider, I don't love the backpack. But Dragstrip, definitely a pretty good start. And as far as his rating, well, as part of this new format for Out of the Box, going forward I will be implementing a ranking system, taking, for Transformers action figures, at least 7 things into account. Those being alt mode design, robot mode design, articulation, paint and color separation, accessories, transformation, and overall structure, which I will then average into an overall score. And then from there, using that overall score, I'll give them a ranking from iron, bronze, silver, gold, platinum, and diamond. So, how did Dragstrip turn out? Well, this will be a little bit biased, obviously. This is my opinion on the figure. 8 out of 10 in alt mode, 8 out of 10 in robot mode, 8 out of 10 in articulation with 20 different points, 6 out of 10 in paint and color with 5 different colors, excluding the head, 7.5 out of 10 in accessories, 7 out of 10 for transformation, and 9 out of 10 for overall structure. So, doing some quick math, overall that's a 7.6 out of 10, which is a gold rating. So my overall thoughts on Dragstrip as far as to buy or not to buy, I would say if you look at it, and if you want it, then get it. And if you don't want it, then don't. If you're doing the whole Menasor thing, of course you gotta get him, because, you know, he's one of the arms. And if you like the things that the figure does, if you're into Dragstrip as a character, if you like Formula 1 car designs, if you like yellow Transformers, then, yeah, I'd say go ahead and pick him up. Given that the War for Cybertron trilogy was a little bit, I guess, scarce as far as Decepticons go, this guy definitely makes a good addition to your Decepticon military, which I know I need more of. I mean, seriously, it's like 1984 all over again. We get, like, 1 Decepticon for every 5 Autobots. Oh, then again, Legacy Wave 2 looking to change that by going completely overboard. What is this, EA trying to balance Apex Legends? So, this has been my review for Transformers Legacy Dragstrip. As always, I'm Noble2 Productions. Please like, share, subscribe, do whatever you want. And until next time, peace out.